Disrespect deserves nothing, not your time, not your energy, not an explanation, and not your need to be understood. It's not your effort to correct it. Nothing. And I want to say that because this is where most people lose themselves. The moment that disrespect happens, something in you activates. You feel your body register it immediately. You can react with anger, aggression. You lean into it, It's like a, how could you kind of moment. And that's where something is incredibly off. Instead of honoring the moment where people are moving towards you, you disengage. It deserves no attention. Don't try to make sense of it. Don't try to compute why this is happening to you or why this person, don't try to correct that person. Right then and there, you've already given something to something that deserves absolutely nothing, because disrespect is not something that needs to be worked through. Disrespect is not something that needs to be worked through. It's something that needs to be recognized. And so once you recognize it, it is your responsibility to not engage with it. Your responsibility is to separate from it, lean back. That's the part people don't practice. Separation, quiet, non-participation. Because we've been conditioned to believe that everything requires a response. Every misunderstanding needs immediate clarity. Every moment needs resolution. When I was disrespected in past relationships, I leaned into it. Why? I argued and I tried to say, that's not my intention. That's not me. And I knocked on the door, talk to me, And it's when you make that decision, you're giving them of energy that they don't deserve. So the removal is more loud to people that are disrespecting you. It's not dramatic. It's not a speech. It's not a perfectly worded message explaining your boundaries. It's quiet. And it's clean. And it's final. And if that person wants to reapproach you with a different attitude or in a respectful way, then you engage and you can respond if you choose to. I think that's what people struggle with, because quiet feels incomplete. And silence feels like you're leaving something unresolved. Distance feels like you're avoiding something, but not always. What you're doing is you're not choosing to invest in something that has already shown you that it doesn't align. And that's a discipline. And it's not being rude back. It's not being defensive. It's not immediately going into an apology. You can do all of those things if you want to. There's a time and a place and it's appropriate. But I just want to clarify a point, just to make sure you understand. Disrespect deserves nothing. So let's correct that narrative. You do not need to prove who you are. Because even when you prove who you are, it doesn't change the disrespect. It only keeps you connected to it. Think about a time where that's true and where you stay stuck. Because not of what happened, but because you keep re-engaging with it. I can replay countless times where I felt disrespected and I engaged. And not only did I engage, I stepped it up. I met it with disrespect. And I kept it alive. So the longer you keep these things alive, the more energy it takes from you. Disrespect only has power if you continue to give it access. And access is not just physical. It's mental access. It's definitely emotional access. And it's the time spent that you spend thinking about it. That is access. So the conversations that you have about it, even with a friend or in your own mind, the ways you try to make sense of it, that's all energy. And all of that is being given to something or someone that deserved none of it. So when I say disrespect deserves nothing, I mean it at every level. It does not deserve your attention. It does not deserve your analysis or your will in that moment to to validate or to bridge, or your attempt to be understood or to understand that person. Because at that point, it's disrespect. It gets nothing. And it's not avoidance. That is not avoidance. That is clarity. And so you can want to fix something, but in that moment, you already have your answer. And that's the part that people resist. They think if they disengage, they're losing something, or they're accepting it, or they're not being kind, or they're not being responsive to the person who's bringing an issue to them. Issues are one thing you can address. Disrespect is different. And you know the difference. You can feel the difference. So if someone is not coming to you in a calm manner and wanting to, display something that is upsetting to them that you've done, which you can attach to or not attach to, or reflect, if it's a disrespect, you know that. And that's not the way that a conversation starts. So preserve your standard, because in that moment, when you want to be understood and you want someone to understand your perspective, if you are responding to disrespect, you're lowering yourself in that dynamic because you're trying to prove your worth or trying to prove your point. And you do not need to prove your worth. You need to protect it. And protection is not always engagement. It can be separation. It can be quiet. And again, in my past, when someone else wanted to take time or separation, I didn't like that. I had attachment issues at that time, so I wanted to engage. And so I've learned that you have to be very careful with your energy. You can let someone be upset with you and give space to that, as long as you're doing it in the sense where it's like, hey, I care about you. I care about what you want to say. I'm feeling that you're being disrespectful in the moment. I'm not going to engage with it, but I will come back to talk to you when you can talk to me respectfully. That way, no one's feeling drained or confused or disconnected. So I think a lot of people invest in things that don't deserve them in the moment. So let's make this super simple. When disrespect happens, you don't move towards it. You move away from it. There is no will to connect in that moment. In that moment. There should be no desire to fix it in that moment. You're letting someone do something that is not in good light. So create space, create distance, create quiet. And you can certainly say to that person, I understand you're trying to communicate something with me. This isn't the way to do that. This feels disrespectful, and I want to reapproach this, or you can reapproach this in a different way. But this doesn't feel like something that I can respond to or engage with now. It's not coming from a place of communication. It's coming from a place of control. When someone disrespects you, they know what they're doing. They're controlling a space, they're engaging in an argument, and you do not need to stay connected at that time. You can hold the door open, or you can put a bookmark somewhere, but you don't need to keep that conversation alive when you are being disrespected, because you're continuing to give access almost while you're waiting for them to change in the moment. And what's happening is it's taking the conversation in a direction where everyone's going to lose themselves. So if you stay connected to the disrespect, hoping for respect in the middle of a conversation, hoping that suddenly they realize that they have said something to you that's not in good light, they can't exist in the same space. That person needs to choose, which they did because they disrespected you, and you need to choose what you give your energy to. And both people get to choose. And if something shows up, you already have an answer. It gets nothing. No time. No energy. No explanation, no response, no text back, no email, no this, no chasing, right? No knocking on the door, no stopping by, whatever the dysfunction is. Disrespect deserves nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so most people try to engage it and they lean, don't question it, don't analyze it, don't try to understand. That's where you stay stuck. And someone disrespects me nowadays, they lose my energy. They lose that. If they want to reapproach me, I might be open to that, but I'm not going to be open to someone disrespecting me. And you know the difference. You know the difference. So if you've ever felt pulled to explain yourself or fix a situation or have that anxious anxiety, or something shows up and you're, and you're just trying to prove, it deserves nothing.